Hey friends, how's it going and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to convert the MVC app into an MVVM. Alright, so in the previous video, if you have not watched that before, check out. I'm going to leave a link at the top. I've created this project where I make a bunch of API calls to fetch all these movies inside a list, and then I added a filter text field where you can actually perform some kind of search. Alright, so as you see over here, I'm going to maybe search for one. So let me just do one and notice that 6 results found, and all of these results have the word one inside the title. And obviously when I remove this, it's going to just return all the unfiltered results. Alright, so I've created this project using the MVC architecture, which is pretty neat. So it's like it's just 121 lines long, and I'm going to convert this now into the MVVM architecture. And obviously when I was preparing for this, I've already created, this is the finished product over here. So as you can see, we have the input, output, and it's actually a lot longer in my view. I think 180 lines long. Alright, so of course, one good thing about using the MVVM architecture is that you have more separation of the layers, it's more testable. But the flip side is that you're going to generate a lot more files, you're going to increase compile time, and sometimes it can be even be less readable as well. Alright, so anyway, let's get started. So I'm going to use the code on my left as a reference from time to time. So let's start by creating a view model. Okay, so let's start by creating a class over here. Let's call this search view model. Okay, so we don't have to conform to anything. It's just going to be a very simple class, and then we can now just create an instance of this class inside the controller. So let view model equals to search view model. So just like that, command B to build. It's going to compile perfectly, I believe. Okay, so let me just wait for it to compile. Okay, build succeeded. Okay, so now we have to define the input and the output inside the view model. So I'm going to do that by representing that with a strut. So I'm going to have input, and then I'm going to have output, and then I'm also going to have a transform method so that we can convert the input into the output. Alright, so transform input, which is like that, into an output. Okay, so converting one strut into another. Okay, at the meantime, there's nothing inside output, so it's an empty strut, so there's no properties inside. So we can just init it like that. Command B to build. I believe it should still build correctly. Okay, build succeeded. Okay, so the next thing to ask is that what is the input, or rather, what is the data that we want the view model to receive? All right, what is the event, or what's the model? So we need the controller to let the view model know that view deload happens, so that the view model can make an API call to fetch all this information over here. And also the view model also needs the view controller to know that someone has or the user has entered some filter, entered some keywords over here, so that we can filter against the movies that we have made the API call to. Alright, so maybe let's do step 1. So let's create a publisher here. So let's call this view deload publisher. So just like that, and this will be a type any publisher. So the signature will be void and never, and the reason is because we don't need to pass in any model into the view deload event, and we're not going to return an error, so this is going to be never. Okay. Alright, so what's going to happen now is that we're going to observe this inside the observe function. So let's just jump into the observe function right here, and then I'm going to create the output. Output equals to view model dot transform, and then I have to pass in an input, right? Alright, so let's do let input. And what is the input? The input is of type search view model dot input, which is a strut actually, right? Dot input is a strut, and I have to pass in the view deload publisher. Alright, so let's just jump to that. So search view model dot input, and notice over here I have to pass in some kind of publisher that is of type any publisher, void never. Alright, so basically what this means is that the view model needs to know when view deload happens on the view controller. So how can we represent that? We can I mean, there are a couple of ways to do that, but the easiest way would be create some kind of pass through subject. Alright, so let's do view deload view deload subject equals to pass through subject void and never. Let's do it this way. And then what's going to happen is that inside the view deload function, we're going to call view deload subject.send. And what do we need to send? We have to send of type void. Alright, so I can do it this way. This is a void, or in fact, Swift allows me not to just just enter an NT parenthesis. This will work as well. Okay, so let's come down and inside over here, since this is of type any publisher, void never, and our subject is pass through subject, so we have to convert this pass through subject into any publisher. So have you thought how we're going to do that? Basically, we can just call the erase to any publisher. All right, so let me just bring this down so that it's clean and nice and easy to read. Okay, so we're going to pass in the input. Alright, so now I have to, so now the question to ask is that when view deload happens, what do we want to do? We want to make an API call, right? We want to do this whole looping thing, using the dispatch queue, and then maybe saving this, the results somewhere, we want to hold a state of it. Okay, so let's do that over here. So inside the output, I'm going to also create a publisher, or rather a reference to hold this publisher. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way. So let view deload publisher. I can do it this way as well. So any publisher, void never. Okay, so inside here I can so let me see, if I am to do command B to build, it's going to complain because I have to pass in this view deload publisher here. Okay, so where am I going to get this view deload publisher? I'm going to construct it over here. So okay, this will be of type any publisher, void never. Okay, so I'm going to do equals to input. Okay, and I'm going to get this from the event when view deload happens. And what I want to do is I want to make the API call. All right, so how am I going to do that? Let me just have a look at my reference. Okay, so one way to do this is I can call the handle events method. So handle events means when this event is fired, I can I have a couple of closures over here. So notice over here, if I select all, I can upon receive subscription, I can do something from it. Upon receive output, I can do something. Upon completion, I can do something. Upon cancel, upon request, I can do something. But what I'm really interested in is just the output, okay? Because this happens whenever the event is being fired. So what I can do is that I can just do handle events, and then I can do receive output. All right, just oops, not subscription, receive. Let me do that again. Receive output. Okay, so this is the one that I want. Okay, so you notice that it's returning a void, so I can just do an underscore over here. So what this means is that when view deload happens, what do I want to do? I want to be able to fetch make the API call. So what I can do is that I'm going to create a private function over here, private func. Let's call this fetch movies. Okay, and then inside here I'm going to call fetch movies. Okay, but obviously I'm inside a closure, so what I can do is that I can add a big self so I don't get the retain cycle. So fetch movies, and then what's going to happen is that I want to store this movie somewhere. So maybe right at the top over here, I'm going to create a variable to hold a bunch of movies. So movies will be movies like that, and then maybe an empty array, and I'm going to make this a publish property so that this we can actually observe this movies. Okay, what's the problem? We can observe this property. All right. Okay, so what's going to happen is that over here, handle events, I have to be able to return this. So I'm going to do a flat map. So what flat map does is that it's going to convert one thing to another. So flat map, and then I can do a return just a void because I have to return this. I have to return according to this signature. So just dot erase to any publisher, and then I think at the bottom I can just do dot erase to any publisher, and I can just pass this inside over here. All right. So maybe let me just print this out. Fetch movies now. Okay, let's do something like that. And then let's do command B to build. I believe everything should build successfully. Build succeeded. But obviously it's not going to work now. So we have to hold a reference to this view deload publisher, and we need to do that inside the observe function. Okay, so let's see over here. Okay, so let's do it here. So output dot view deload publisher. So this is actually from this one over here. All right. So I'm going to do dot sync. Okay, and we don't really need to read the value, so I'm going to just replace this with an underscore. We don't need to handle anything, and I'm going to do store in cancellables. All right, so I can just make this like that because I don't really need to execute anything. I just need to hold on to the reference to the publisher. Okay, so now I'm going to just hit the play button and run this, and I believe I will see that I'll see that the fetch movies now is being called, okay, which is great. Okay, so now I'm going to maybe copy or rather cut through all this implementation and put that inside here. So in fact, you know what, just let me just do Command Z to cut that and paste this inside over here, and instead of fetch products, I think it should be fetch movies. Okay, so let's see where it's breaking. Okay, so over here I think this is going to break because we don't have movies over here. Do we have? Oh, I think we do. Movies, this is the one. Okay, so we can keep that. We don't need the filter over here, so I can just remove that. And then let's do Command B to build. Oh, okay, over here, cancellables. Okay, so what I can do, let me just have a look at my reference. Okay, so rather than creating a data task publisher, I'm going to use the old school data task instead. So let me just change that. So URL session .shared .data task with completion handler. So let's create the request. So let request equals to URL request, and then the URL will be the URL at the top over here. So we have this URL, and then let's pass in the request, data, response, error here, error, okay. And then I'm just going to assume that the data is correct. So I'm going to do let response equals to try. I'm just going to force unwrap it. JSON decoder dot decode movies response dot self from data. Okay, and then I'm going to do temp dot append contents of, I believe, response dot result. Do I have result here? Movie response, yeah, what's the problem here? Movie response dot result. Okay, I think it should work. And then I need to call the resume method to make sure that this will be executed. So I don't need any of this anymore, but I have to ensure that group.live is also inside over here. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the entire of this thing over here. Okay, let's see, is this going to work? Great. Okay, so now what I want to do is that I'm just going to print out this over here to ensure that I'm getting everything inside the temp. So I'm just going to do temp.count. Okay, so let me see what's the problem here. Oh, I think I need to force unwrap the data. Okay, so let me just run this to see if I'm getting this temp.count being shown up. All right, so let me just wait for a while. Fetch products. Oh, okay, this is incorrect. So let me just remove that from the view controller. Okay, so notice that I have the 100 over here, which is great, meaning to say that this is executing correctly. And once I'm getting all the movies, I'm setting it inside the movies property over here. Okay, so now I can just remove the print statement because I know that this is working fine. Okay, I'm gonna just remove all the spaces so that it looks really tight. Okay, next thing I want to do is to pass in the filter, right? So whenever the user is typing something over here, I want to send that information into the view model as well. And what I can do is that I can create a publisher here. So let's call this search text publisher. This will be of type any publisher. And I'm going to be returning a string and never. Okay, never because it's never going to return an error. Okay, command B to build. Obviously, it's going to complain, build failed. So let me come down to the part where it fails, which is over here. I have to pass in the search text publisher. So currently I don't have any reference to that. So what I can do is I can come all the way to the top. Let's call this search text subject. Again, this will be a pass-through subject. It will take the same string optional, and you might be wondering why is it string optional here. And the reason is because inside this one over here, searchcontroller.searchbar.text is actually a string optional, and that's the reason. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do let query equals to this. I think I can just remove everything over here. Okay, let me just come all the way to the top, and then search text publisher. Where are we? Oh, over here. So never. Okay, so just like that, let's come all the way to the bottom, and then let's find this query over here. Maybe let's call it search text, and then oops, capital T, and then over here I'm going to do search text subject.send, and I'm going to send the search text, which is of type string optional. Okay. Alright, so now what we need to do is inside the input, I have to pass in the search text subject dot erase to any publisher. So pretty straightforward. Alright, and also I have to do I need to hold a reference to that? I think I do. Okay, so let me come all the way to the top as well, and then I'm going to just create this reference inside the output. Okay, so over here I'm going to do let, okay, so command B to build. Obviously the init is going to complain because I have to pass in this search text publisher as well. So let me do that now. So let search text publisher, which is of type any publisher, string optional, and never. Okay, and actually in fact I don't have to return a string optional. I mean, I can do it this way, but I'll prefer to return a void and never, because technically the view controller don't need to know what the search text is, because you already have a reference to that. Okay, so I can do input dot search text publisher, and then I can do dot handle event. I think I can do the same thing as well. I think it's received output, receive output. This one, receive, oh, I can't spell that correctly, RECEIVE output. Okay, just like that. Okay, so notice that what's returned, it's a string optional. So this is a search text in, and obviously I want to put a weak self over here. Okay, so now what's going to happen, I'm going to create another published subject over here, published private var, let's call this search text. Okay, it's basically a filter. Alright, so again, same principle, self dot search text equals to search text, and then I'm going to do a flat map, and then I'm going to return also a just, because I'm going to convert basically the string optional to a void, so I have to do it this way, and then dot erase to any publisher, and I think I can pass this inside over here. Alright, so command B to build, it should build, oh, build fail. What's the problem? Oh, it's because it expects one argument over here, so I can just replace this with an underscore in. Command B to build, believe this should build successfully. Oh, what's the problem here? Let me see. Oh, it's because this is a string. I think I can just return this as a void. Alright, command B to build, I believe it should build successfully now. Okay, and also I have to hold a reference, so maybe let me also just add a print statement over here. So let's call this search, and then search text, and then I need to hold the reference to the publisher, so I'm going to do that inside here. Okay, since they all have the same signature, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to loop them inside an array instead. So I'm going to do output dot view deload publisher, output dot search text publisher, and I'm going to do for each. Okay, and then let's do $0 dot sync. I think this should be fine. Okay, so command R to run the project, and let's see when we type in, are we seeing the text being shown up? Okay, so maybe hello. So notice that I have this being printed out over here. Alright, so this is good. Okay, so what I need to do next is to observe these two things, and then perform the filtration process or the operation, and then spit out whatever movies that's relevant to be shown inside over here. Alright, so what I need to do is to create another publisher. Alright, so the output, I can create another one over here. So let's do let set data source publisher. Okay, this will be of type any publisher, and what am I interested to return back to the view controller? Obviously an array of movies, and then maybe I can just return never. Okay, so I mean, if I want to, I can return an error, and then I have to, you know, handle error and things like that, but I think I want to keep this example really simple. Alright, so I'm just going to return either an array of movies or maybe an empty array, for example. Okay, so over here I have to return this set data source publisher. So now what I want to do is that I'm going to create this publisher. So set data source publisher, this will be of type any publisher, and then movie, and then never. Okay, so how am I going to set the data source? I have to look at the movies as well as the search text, and then perform some kind of operation to perform the filtration, right? Okay, so what I need to do is I have to observe both of them. So I'm going to do publishers dot combine latest, so A and B. So I'm going to combine both publishers. So the first publisher will be movies, okay, and the second one will be obviously the search text. Okay, so I'm going to just make them like that, so that's easy to read. Okay, and then I have to do a flat map. So I want to combine them together. So flat map, flat map, and then over here I'll be getting back those two properties over here. Okay, so I will get back movies, which is of type movie. So I'm going to make it a bit more explicit here, and I'm going to get back search text, which is of type string. Okay, in. Okay, so also inside movies, I only want it to happen whenever movies is not nil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use compact map to make sure that I'm not interested in anything that is empty. If it's an empty array, I'm just going to skip that. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do flat map over here is I'm going to do a couple of search. So if let's search text equals to search text, okay, meaning to say that there is the user is typing in something, and then I'm going to do let filtered equals to movies dot filter. Okay, and what am I going to filter for? I'm going to filter for the title dot contains. Okay, maybe I need to do dot lowercase as well. Dot lowercase dot contains, and I need to contain the search text dot lowercase. All right, so just like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to return just output filtered dot erase to any publisher. All right, otherwise if there is no search text, meaning to say that the user has not made any search, then I think all I need to do is to just return all the movies. Okay, so movies dot erase to any publisher, and then finally erase to any publisher. All right, so let's return set data source over here. Okay, so again, if you're wondering what flat map does, it basically converts from one publisher to another. So obviously you see publishers.combine latest is going to basically the signature will be different from this, correct? So flat map basically takes the information here, and then we do the operation and we return the just, and just will be aligned with the signature over here. Okay, so I think that's all I need. All right, so let's come to this part over here, and then let's do output dot what is that, set data source publisher dot sync, and then over here I'm going to get back an array of movies. So movies in, so I'm going to do self dot movies equals to movies. All right, or self dot filtered, maybe let's do self dot filtered equals to movies. Okay, I think that's fine. And dot store in cancellables, and let's not forget to do this all inside the main queue. So receive on dispatch queue dot main. Okay, I think that's all we need. Okay, we don't need the inside the controller. I think we do not need this movies over here, so I'm just going to remove that, make a space over here, command B to build this. I believe this should work now. Build. Okay, it looks like it failed. What's the problem here? Let's see. Oh, that's because we don't have the weak self here, which we need. Okay, so command R to build this. Let's see if this is working. So build succeeded. Okay, great. So oh yeah, so notice over here that the 100 results are being returned. So notice inside the controller we are no longer calling the fetch movies or the fetch products. I think I misspelled that earlier. And then when I oops what's the problem here? Okay, so it looks like over here this is one. Okay, so when I hit this, I'm not getting anything. So it looks like I've introduced a bug over here somewhere. So let me just quickly have a look at that. Alright guys, I kind of found out where the error is. Okay, and the reason is because I have to ensure that the search text is not empty. Alright, so I have to add another condition over here. Search text is empty. Is not empty. Okay, so I think this will work this time now. So let me just rerun this again, and then let's have a look. Okay, so 100 results found. Let's do want. We get all these things, and let me just hit the backspace, and finally backspace. We get the unfiltered results. All right, guys. So yeah, I think I've kind of come to the end of this video. Obviously, there are better ways to do this. I'm doing this the really quick and dirty way. And as you can see, it doesn't really mean that MVVM is always better than MVC. It really depends on the use case. As you can tell, there is a lot that's going on over here, which some people might think that it's absolutely redundant, right? So it kind of increases the complexity as well, although you are kind of separating them into more layers. But yeah, that's for you to decide which architecture works well for you. This is, again, just a quick and dirty way to show you how you can convert an MVC app into MVVM. And with that, I'm saying goodbye to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.